This lecture is also continuation of previous lectures about functions. Let us start this lecture by discussing problems with global variables. The first problem is usage of global variables is not safe. Actually, if two or more programmers are working together in a program and one of them may change the value stored in a global variable without telling the others, who depend on their calculation on the old value, then usage of global variable is not safe. Usage of global variable is against the principle of information hiding. Exposing the global variable to all function is against the principle of information hiding, since it gives all function the freedom to change value stored in the global variable at any time. Returning value from function. A function may or may not send back any value to the calling function. It's done through a keyword return, that is also called return statement. It is possible to send any number of values to the called function. The called function can only return one value per call. That is important point. Only one value can be returned at a time. It returns data and control goes to callers, function callers. Various ways to return a value from function. Simple return, it is used if no data to return, mean return only control back to calling function. Then return, that is name of variable var, it will return value of variable to the calling function. Similarly, we can use return statement like return expression. So it will return evaluated result of expression to the calling function. So these are three different ways to use return statement. Now let us discuss categories of user defined functions. User defined functions have following four categories. These are very important categories. Function with no argument and no return value. Then second one is function with no argument, but that function is returning a single value. Third one is function with argument. Main function contains some arguments, but function is not returning any value. And fourth one is function is using arguments as well as returning a value as well. Now let us discuss the detail of these four categories. The table shows detail of these categories. That is first category with arguments and with return type. So in this category, at function declaration, user defined function that is returning a value of type integer and passing an argument of type integer. Its function call within the main function or any other function with one parameter a. Then its definition of function having four parts, that is return type, name of function, arguments, and statement within the body of function, and it's returning a value. The next category of user defined function is main function uses arguments but without return value. So its sample function code void. Void mean no return value. Name of function, it's one argument of type integer terminated with semicolon, and this statement is function declaration or function prototype statement. Then its function call statement with one parameter, its function definition, that is not returning any value, that's why we are using here void, name of function one argument, statements within the body of function, no need to use return statement within the body of this function. The third category is without argument and without return value. Void function parenthesis are empty, mean we are passing no argument to this function. Void mean no return type. Its function call without passing of arguments. Its void function without argument and statements within the body of this function. The function is not returning any value and is not passing any parameter. Next category is without argument and with return value. So its return type, name of function, list of parameter is empty, mean we are not passing arguments to this function. Its function declaration, its function call without argument, its function definition, that is return type, name of function, no arguments in this function. Since integer return type is used here, so function will return a value, so you have to use return statement within this function. Now another very important topic of default arguments in function. When we mention a default value for a parameter while declaring the function, it is called as default argument. In this case, even we make a call to the function without passing any value for that parameter, the function will take default value specified, and that value is specified by the user normally at the time of declaration. Basic rules for default argument. Only the last argument must be given default value. You cannot have a default argument followed by non-default argument. Consider some cases, that is a user defined function with two arguments, int a, int b. It's correct. At function declaration mean we are not assigning any value to a or b. It's another function definition, that is declaring variable a, and declaration as well as initialization of other variable. Int b is equal to 2, that 2 is default argument of this function. Later value can be default argument. Similarly, mul int a is equal to 1, int b. So it's incorrect. The reason is, if starting value or earlier value is using default argument, then later values must use default arguments. The same point is discussed here. Only the last argument must be given default value, and you cannot have a default argument followed by non-default argument. Okay, it's non-default argument, that's why it's incorrect. Some more detail. If you have default an argument, then you will have to default all the subsequent arguments after the argument. For example, it's int a, int b is equal to 0 is correct. Int a, int b is equal to 2, int c, it's incorrect. The reason is, here you are using default value for b. You must use default value for c as well. For example, the last case, that is mul int a, int b, we are using default value for b, and all following variables must be initialized with default values. That's why it's incorrect, and this case is incorrect. Last one is correct one, and this one is incorrect. Program highlighting the usage of default arguments in a function. Its title, pseudo title of this program: write a program to elaborate concept of default argument in a function. Hash include iostream.h using namespace std. Int sum with these 4 parameters. Its function declaration. The important point to note here is, its int x, int y, then int z is equal to 0. That 0 is default argument value. Then int w is equal to 0 is also default value for w. So these two are actually default arguments. It's a main function. Then call a function sum with 2 parameters. Here it's using 4 parameters. The first 2 parameters will copied in x and y, that is copy 10 in x and copy 15 in y. Now control will transfer to function definition. Its function definition, int a, it will receive value 10, b will receive value 15. Since we are not passing third and fourth value, so third and fourth values will be taken from z is equal to 0 and w is equal to 0, that is default arguments. So return sum of these 4 values. Then in this case we are calling sum function with 3 parameters. Fourth one is missing, so function will use default argument, fourth argument as default argument. And then in this one all 4 arguments are given, so these sum of these 4 will return by using this statement. Now let us look at the output. Here is the output, that is 10 plus 15 plus 0 plus 0, so it will return 25. 10 plus 15 plus 25 plus 0 will return 50. 10 plus 15 plus 25 plus 30 will return 80. So all these 3 calls are actually calling this function, that is returning sum of 4 variables. Now another important concept used in functions, that is function overloading. It is the process of using the same name for 2 or more than 2 functions. Requires each a redefinition of a function to use a different function signature. Signature refers to different type of parameter, or different sequence of parameter, or different number of parameter. These 3 things are included in function signature. So it is used so that a programmer does not have to remember multiple function name. Simple example, 2 or more function can have the same name but different parameter, either type of parameter or number of parameters or even order of parameters as well. It's a main function that is using 2 parameters of type integer. It's another function with same name but it's using 2 different parameters. The type of these 2 parameters is float and the type of these 2 parameters is integer. So both functions will be treated as different functions because one is using integer type arguments and other is using float type arguments. So calling overloaded function, overloaded functions are called just like other functions. The number and type of argument determine which function should be invoked. Important point, that is the number and type of arguments. Okay, so for instance consider the following code fragment, that is main 5, 9 both are integer value, then main 3.2, 5.7 both are float value, main 2, 5.1, 15. Here number of arguments is 2, both are of integer type. Here number of arguments is also 2 but both are of float type. Here number of arguments is 3. Now function overloading call resolution. Overloaded function call resolution is done by compiler during compile time. The function signature determine which defined definition is used. Remember that function signature represent number of arguments, type of arguments, and order of arguments. A function signature consists of parameter types and number of parameters applied to a function. A function return type is not part of function signature. Important point. Means you cannot overload any function based on return type of that function, and is not used in function call resolution. Steps involved in finding the best match during function overloading. A call to an overloaded function is resolved to a particular instance of the function through a process known as argument matching, which can be termed as a process of disambiguation. Argument matching involves comparing the actual argument of the call with the formal arguments of each declared instance of the function. There are three possible cases a function call may result in. These three possible cases are: a match is found for the function call. Second one is no match is found for the function call. Third one is more than one defined instance for the function call. Now let us discuss the detail of these three cases one by one. The first case is search for an exact match. If the type of actual argument exactly matches the type of one defined instance, the compiler invokes that particular instance. For example, void cube int, void cube double. These two are function declaration. Its function call cube 0. So exact match for cube 0 is integer value. That's why it will invoke cube having integer argument. The second case is a match through promotion. If no exact match is found, an attempt is made to achieve a match through promotion of the actual argument. Recall that conversion of integer type's character into int, this is called integral promotion. Consider the following code fragment, that is void cube int function declaration, void cube float another function declaration, its function called cube c. So it will match through promotion, and it will match with cube int, first one, that is this one, because of character to integer conversion. Third case is a match through application of standard C++ conversion rules. If no exact match or match through a promotion is found, an attempt is made to achieve a match through standard conversion of the actual argument. For example, consider the following example: void cube character, void cube double. These two are function definition. At function call cube 471. So match through standard conversion matches with cube double. The value is converted into double. So it will call this function.